Just as in modern times, there were many options for Romans as to where they would rest their heads at night. Although these options were based on the wealth and status of an individual or family, there were two main spheres of living: an insula, or apartment, a domus, or family home. An offshoot of the single-family home was also the villa, which was an ornate structure located away from the busy life of the city. Residences for Romans were bases for artistic and cultural life, as well as simply living. Romans hosted social events, bonded with community members, and even conducted business within their residences. For the less wealthy stratum of society, these events would take place within the owner's insula.
Here in Ostia, one of the neighborhoods in Rome, there are several examples of insulae. An insula, meaning island, is a Roman apartment building that generally housed lower and middle-class citizens. Some insulae are as tall as 6 or 7 stories. After the Great Fire of Rome, which lasted 3 days and completely destroyed 3 of Rome's 14 districts, emperors restricted the height of insulae first to 70 feet and then later to 60 feet. Therefore, later built insulae are sometimes only 2 or 3 stories tall. In general, the higher stories were smaller, less safe, and harder to get to, meaning they were cheaper to rent than the lower floors. However, even families in lower stories faced dangers. Initially, insulae were built with wood and mud brick, making them prone to fire and collapse. Later insulae designs used fire, brick, and concrete to reduce these hazards. Insulae commonly had 3 types of rooms. Cubicula, or bedrooms, were often the most interior rooms in insulae to attempt to block the outside street noises. Exedra, or sitting rooms, were commonly the largest rooms, and medianum, which were central hall-like rooms, were placed in the middle of the insulae and provided access to every other room. Medianums would often overlook either the street or the courtyard in the center of the insulae. Insulae did not have kitchens or bathrooms, although the lack of kitchens led some to believe that most lower and middle-class families frequently ate out at bars and restaurants. These people commonly ate at homes in their medianums.
My name is Kristen Mueller, and I'm at a domus in Pompeii. Surprisingly, these houses were built in the busiest parts of town on busiest streets because the Roman elites wanted to be where all the people were. During the day, they left their doors wide open so passers-by could see their wealth. The entrance hall, or vestibulum, led to the focal point of the building, the atrium. In the atrium, the head of the household would sit and allow guests to come pay respects to him. With a house like this, he was most likely a wealthy upper-class citizen, so people wanted his favor and attention. The hole in the center of the ceiling in this room, called the impluvium, was used to collect rainwater into a pool beneath it. This water was strictly ornamental. Surrounding the atrium were the study, bedrooms, and dining area. The kitchen was located on an outside wall of the house. The dining took place in a triclinium, which literally translates to 3-couch place. This is where residents would lay sideways on benches or couches to eat. Many such houses featured an enclosed garden called a viridarium, such as this one. Bright colors, large sculptures of important and notable family members of the past, detailed murals, and large architectural water features were all components found in the richest houses. Extravagance in largeness and size both signified wealth in ancient Roman civilization. The walls of the domus were usually covered in bright, elaborate frescoes. These paintings sometimes depicted rustic or mythological scenes as well as sexual images. The walls were not the only part of the building that were decorated. Huge floor mosaics were also common. The Roman domus was a showpiece.
I'm focusing my video clip on the Villa Poppaea. The introduction. The first image will appear of a corner view of the Villa Poppaea with some view of the horticulture outside, then slowly motions into the main entrance, where the view appears as a walk-through with a narrow view of the doorway from the main entrance doorway, then gradually zooming out into the room. Meanwhile, during this introduction, the scene of the script will read, "The Villa Poppaea views itself of power and wealth. The massive door shows off the lifestyle to all the citizens that pass by." The second location, the second shoot after the main room of the angle will turn like a spin-off into the villa's greeting room and living room, where guests sit and converse. The script will read, "The room of importance for political figures where they meet. They are surrounded by beautiful art and statues of their ancestors that represent their family's past glory." At the part where the script reads, "They are surrounded by beautiful art and statues of their ancestors that represent their family's past glory," the view will be of the walls of the room that remains there. The third location. The third part will focus of the kitchen area. The view will capture how big the kitchen is and discuss how meals were prepared. The script will read, and then came the feast. A glorious kitchen was built to dine the wealthy with healthy and exotic animal and rich fruit. The fourth location. Finally, the view will capture the courtyard of the villas with the walk-through angle into the bedroom of the head of the household. This last clip will feature the massive room where the masters of the household sleep. This room will be captured by the walls and how tall the ceilings are, and the script will read, "Then came the night time where the sun sets and the masters of the villas rest for the day, surrounded by the lavish silks they lay on, as massive walls protect them. This is the Villa of Pompeia."
The Villa of the Papyri, a private home in Herculaneum just outside of Pompeii, is a famous example of an ancient Roman villa. Halfway up Mount Vesuvius, the villa was completely buried during the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD. The villa first began to be excavated in 1750 by Carl Weber, whereupon it was found that the villa was home to 1,785 carbonized papyrus scrolls. This library was found to contain a philosophical treasure trove of ancient writings. A great deal of Epicurus's work was uncovered here. Much of it was never seen before in prose. Also, the majority of the works found here were in Greek and some even in Latin. Like many villas, the Villa of the Papyri had a distinct layout. It featured an atrium with a columned portico on the seaside, with the living quarters surrounding the portico for optimal sunlight and a view of the sea. Statues, busts, and elaborate gardens would be used to decorate the villa. While 2,800 square meters are still unexcavated, the focus has now shifted to the preservation and conservation of the ancient structure. More recently, the J. Paul Getty Museum in Malibu, California, has tried to replicate this famous villa with an actual reality model. Villas were not only ornate structures to please the eye, but were also centers for cultural life for wealthy Romans. In late antiquity, a villa came to signify a property that was owned by the wealthy, and usually encompasses large parcels of land. These wealthy Romans would live in Rome predominantly, but someone used the villa as a sort of summer home for a portion of the year. Finally, villas were not merely countryside recreations, but were filled with art and literature such as frescoes, mosaics, and even papyrus scrolls, such as in the case of the Villa of the Papyri with its thousands of original scrolls.